There are benefits for athletes who train in tropical climates, such as what exists in Jamaica ahead of outdoor championships. Denise Walters examines whether the warm weather improves performance and how athletes recover from injuries.
Visitors flock the shores of Jamaica not just for its beautiful beaches, but also for its warm tropical climate, especially during the colder months for countries that experience winter. But how do locals, specifically athletes, benefit from the warm tropical climate? Chairman of Rehabilitative Medicine at Montefiore University Hospital and Zion Care International, Dr. Matthew Bartels, who was recently in Jamaica, notes that the tropics does have its benefits.
There's some advantages to being in this climate. You have more training periods of the year that you can train. You're used to training in hot temperatures. So if there's a hot competition day, it does better for you.
Dr. Bartels adds that the warmer climate may help in the recovery process when an athlete has an injury.
Don't know if it allows for faster or slower recovery. I think the climate here in Jamaica probably is more amenable to recovery because a lot of people who have injuries and are in cold climates, often, we haven't scientifically proven why, but they often complain that they have more difficulty and more pain when the weather is cold and damp, and you don't have that here, fortunately.
G.C. Foster College has entered into an MOU with the Montefiore University Hospital, and the principal of the St. Catherine-based school and head coach at Spring Tech, Maurice Wilson, says the cold weather can affect injuries.
Most times when the athletes travel to these countries that the weather is colder, it appears as if the injuries act up more, and so they tend to want some amount of heat within the muscle. Sometimes just before they get on the track, adding a heat pack, or after competing, getting a hot water cool down, if that's the word that you don't want to use. But we normally find that when our athletes travel to colder climates, any form of heat helps.
Meanwhile, Dr. Bartels adds that there could be some drawback to training in one condition.
But you don't have altitude, and altitude would be a benefit for training at altitude. So there's a combination of things.
Wilson agrees to an extent.
In the Jamaican context, I do believe that high altitude helps our middle distance athletes. And the scientific aspect of it is well known, because when we look at countries that do well, Ethiopia, Kenya, and so on, most of their athletes train at higher altitude.
But he had this observation.
I personally cannot speak to any effect that high altitude would have on our sprinters, because if you look at the dynamics in Jamaica, most of our sprinters, if you were to go on a racial basis, they are domiciled in the corporate area, in comparison to those who are from the rural areas. And they normally do well, even if they migrate from the rural areas to the corporate area. They train in the St. Catherine, the Kingston and St. Andrew region, and they perform well.
The MOU fostered by the Ministry of Sport is looking to improve rehabilitative medicine and to serve other needs of G.C. Foster College. The MOU is also set to establish a collaboration which will enhance sports medicine and the treatment of athletes in Jamaica. Denise Walters for TVJ Sports.